Have you ever been stuck somewhere for a really long time? Maybe a cross-country flight, a long meeting, or just binge watching something on the couch for hours.
Oh, absolutely.
And you finally stand up, and in that split second, two things hit you at the same time. First, that powerful must go now rush to the bathroom.
Yep.
And second, this weird, unsettling wobble. You feel like you have to rush, but your legs just don't feel trustworthy.
That exact feeling, that simultaneous urgency and instability is exactly what we are deep diving into today.
I'm so glad we are.
Our sources show this isn't just some accidental, poor coordination. It's a recognized, measurable health interaction. They call it the bladder balance connection.
The bladder balance connection.
Exactly. And this temporary compromise in your stability is a documented contributor to fall risk, especially for older adults, and it gets dramatically amplified during travel.
So our goal today is to really extract the surprising science from these sources, give you a shortcut to being well-informed on this. We want to clarify why the body seems to sacrifice stability for urgency.
Right, and pinpoint those specific high-risk moments you really need to look out for.
And then detail what I found to be surprisingly simple and practical steps the Finch Q team recommends to help you, regain control and confidence.
And to really set the stage for that, we should probably define the types of urgency the sources talk about, because they're directly linked to this instability.
Okay.
We're mainly talking about two kinds, though they often overlap. First is urge incontinence. That's that sudden, powerful, I have to go now feeling that makes you rush.
Yeah, I think we all know that one.
Right. And then there's stress incontinence. That's the leakage that happens during a physical movement, like coughing, sneezing, or moving quickly.
And both of these feed into the balance problem.
They directly compound the balance disturbances we're about to analyze. It makes that walk to the restroom a genuinely high-risk event.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start with that core conflict. If my brain's top priority is keeping me upright and safe, why would it compromise my balance right when I need to move quickly?
That is the essential question, and it's this neurological tug of war.
A tug of war.
It is. What's so fascinating is that the bladder isn't just a simple holding tank. It's constantly communicating with your central nervous system.
So it's always sending signals.
Constantly. When the bladder is quiet, your movement is steady, it's automatic. But when it becomes distressed, meaning those urgency signals fire off powerfully, your movement steadiness suffers immediately.
And why is that?
It's because of something called resource reallocation.
Resource reallocation. That sounds like a computer term. Like the CPU can't run two demanding programs at once.
That is an excellent analogy. The research confirms it. The urgency signals compete directly with the brain's postural control centers for attention.
So it's a bandwidth issue.
It's absolutely a bandwidth issue. When the bladder activates, it's like a massive security alert pops up on your computer demanding 90% of the processing power.
And the stability program that was running in the background just gets.
It temporarily drops in rank. It gets shoved aside. And this is where we learn a really critical piece of information. Urgency temporarily reduces your balance control because the brain shifts resources away from the cerebellum.
The cerebellum, okay, that sounds like a technical term we should probably pause on. Can you clarify its role for us?
Absolutely. The cerebellum is sometimes called the little brain. It's located right at the base of your skull.
Okay.
Its job is crucial. It's your brain's dedicated, automated cruise control system for movement. It coordinates fine muscle movements, posture, balance, all without you having to think about it.
So it's the autopilot for walking steadily.
Exactly. And when the bladder launches that urgent signal, the brain's main focus shifts entirely to sphincter control and, planning how to get you to the toilet. The resources for the cerebellum just drop off.
So your cruise control system is temporarily disabled.
That's it. And that leads to that familiar feeling of being wobbly and unsteady, especially when you try to move quickly.
Wow, so we are not imagining that instability. It's a measurable consequence of the brain prioritizing urgency over automated stability.
Precisely. That explains why people rush, why they take smaller, faster steps, and often feel, a sense of panic.
And you mentioned sitting for a long time makes this worse.
It amplifies it significantly, and this is because of what they call the pelvic floor factor. The sources indicate that after about 75 to 90 minutes of sitting, the pelvic floor muscles, they partially deactivate.
We go to sleep.
You can think of it that way, yeah. It's due to reduced blood flow, maybe some minor nerve compression from all that sustained pressure.
But why does that matter specifically when we stand up?
Because of the timing mismatch. It's all about the timing.
Mm.
When you stand, two things happen at once. The bladder, which was compressed, becomes fully active and starts screaming for relief.
So maximum urgency.
Maximum urgency. But at that exact same moment, the pelvic floor, the key support structure for controlling leakage, hasn't woken up yet. It hasn't fully activated.
The bladder is screaming, but the control mechanism is still groggy.
You've got it. And that mismatch just amplifies the risk of both high urgency and leakage the second you try to move.
That timing is impeccable, though
Yeah.
terribly inconvenient. So if our neurology and our muscles are compromised, where does this actually lead to problems? We tend to think of falls as being about, slippery floors.
And we absolutely must challenge that assumption. It's not just about environmental hazards. The sources pinpoint a specific, universally overlaid window of highest risk.
Which is?
The first 10 to 20 seconds after you stand up from a prolonged seated position.
That is incredibly specific. So you're saying my moment of greatest physical risk might not be walking downstairs, but the moment I get up from an armchair.
Yes. The risk is maximized because a whole convergence of factors, 7 specific factors, hits you during that brief 20-second period.
Okay, let's go through them.
You have, first, the prolonged sitting. Second, a full distressed bladder. Third, that relaxed or sleeping pelvic floor we just talked about. Fourth, stiff joints and legs. Fifth, slow ankle reactions, which are vital for small balance corrections. Sixth, a potential dip in blood pressure when you stand up, which can make you dizzy.
And the seventh.
And seventh, a brain that is critically focused on the toilet, not on maintaining your postural stability.
7 factors, all aligning for maximum vulnerability. It's a stack of risks, not just one thing.
And those risks show up immediately. The sources confirm that your first 5 to 10 steps are often the most unstable.
Which explains why leaks and near falls happen the instant someone gets up from any chair.
Yeah.
The dining table, a car seat.
Or especially an airplane seat, the urgency activates much, much faster than the body's stability systems can recover.
This analysis just perfectly sets up the scenario of travel. A long flight or a long drive seems, almost designed to create what the sources called the perfect physiological trap for this.
They really are. Air travel, in particular, stacks multiple risk factors on top of each other. You've got hours of immobility.
Right, which leads to the sleeping pelvic floor.
Exactly. Then you often have dehydration, followed by, panicked rehydration when the drink cart finally comes around.
Guilty.
You have stiff legs from the cramped space, narrow aisles, and then you have the unpredictable movement of the plane itself, turbulence, which demands instant stability adjustments.
And when you finally stand up to use the lavatory, you're challenging a system that already has low brain resources for balance. The sources give this a name, don't they?
They do. They describe the core issue as orthostatic intolerance combined with urgency activation.
Orthostatic intolerance, that's another key term.
It is, but it's simple, really. It just means your body struggles to maintain blood pressure and get enough blood to the brain when you change position from sitting to standing.
So if I stand up quickly after 3 hours, my blood pressure lags, making me feel dizzy.
Lightheaded, exactly. And on top of that, your brain is hyper-focused on managing the bladder. So it's no wonder those first 20 seconds are so dangerous.
A sudden dip in circulation combined with that neurological resource drain.
That's the perfect storm. The Finch Q team affectionately calls the result the airport bathroom dash.
The airport bathroom dash, I love that. It captures the chaos of that moment perfectly.
It really does. And car travel? It's the same mechanics, just without the turbulence. Prolonged sitting causes blood to pool in your legs, your joints get stiff, the pelvic floor goes to sleep.
Leading to that inevitable moment when you finally open the door at the rest stop.
And urgency activates the instant that door opens. But your balance control, your ankle response time, your blood pressure, they're all lagging behind.
Which means the first few steps in the pavement are critically unstable.
It confirms, again, that the highest fall risk zone is those immediate seconds right after standing up.
We can't talk about urgency in travel without discussing what we eat and drink. It seems like diet can dramatically intensify that bladder signaling.
It truly does. Certain foods and drinks act as direct bladder irritants. They worsen the sensitivity and the intensity of that urge.
And the sources list some key culprits, right? Especially things we might consume during travel.
Oh, yeah. The big ones are coffee and tea, alcohol, carbonated beverages, acidic drinks like orange juice, spicy foods, very salty meals, tomato-based dishes, chocolate, and even artificial sweeteners.
So that classic road trip combo, a large soda, a bag of salty chips, and some coffee to stay awake, is basically a recipe for disaster.
It's a recipe for maximizing bladder distress and therefore compromising the neurological resources you need for balance. The salt makes you thirsty, the caffeine and carbonation intensify the urgency.
And then you're drinking a huge volume all at once.
Right. So the recommendation, especially on travel days, is to drink slowly and consistently. Avoid those big gulps of fluid and try to minimize the high irritant items. It's about proactive management.
If you introduce irritation, the urgency gets stronger and the instability gets worse.
That's the chain reaction.
Even though this is a really critical health topic, the source material does have some wonderful dry humor about it all. It really helps the science stick.
It does. They pointed out 3 things that just perfectly capture the reality. First, the bladder truly behaves like a toddler.
How so?
It's quiet, it's calm, it's manageable while you're sitting, but the very second you stand up, it becomes instantly demanding.
That is so true. And the second one?
Second, that speed increase during urgency, that sudden, uncontrollable need to rush, they internally call that the urgency sprint.
The urgency sprint. I love that because it accurately describes that moment you realize you're moving way faster than you probably should be.
And third, the bladder's timing is impeccable, though rarely convenient. It'll stay silent for hours, but becomes dramatically and unmanageably expressive the exact instant you choose to stand.
That psychological moment of realization is so relatable. But okay, if we connect this all back to the bigger picture, to that convergence of the 7 risks, what practical steps can we actually take? We can't just stop traveling or sitting.
We can't. The solution really lies in counteracting the 2 core problems: the prolonged immobility and the shock of standing up. The Finch Q team details 7 specific preventative steps.
Okay, let's get into them.
The first 3 focus on motion and fluid management. First, and this is key, move every 30 to 45 minutes.
So break that 75-minute cycle.
Precisely. Even if you can't get up on a plane, just shift your weight significantly, reposition yourself, contract your leg muscles. It counters the blood pooling and helps keep the pelvic floor from going completely dormant.
And second is what we just talked about.
Exactly. Strategic fluid intake, drink slowly, avoid large volumes all at once, and minimize those high irritant drinks on long journeys.
And the third step addresses the shock of standing. It's about respecting that neurological lag time.
Yes. The third step is to fundamentally change how you stand up. Do it in stages.
So don't just launch yourself out of the chair.
Right. Instead, sit up tall, rock forward to a half stand, pause for a second, and then rise fully. That gradual approach gives your circulatory system time to adjust, which combats that orthostatic intolerance and allows the brain to start managing stability before the urgency becomes overwhelming.
I really appreciate the value of that built-in pause. It's such a small change in behavior, but it addresses multiple problems at once.
It is so powerful, which leads right into the 4th and 5th steps, which are all about waking up those dormant muscles.
Okay.
4th, actively activate your ankles before you stand. Just pump your feet up and down repeatedly while you're still seated. Do it for about 10 seconds. This forces circulation back toward your core and wakes up those little muscles that are so crucial for early balance correction.
And the 5th step focuses on waking up that sleeping pelvic floor before it's too late.
Correct. You perform a small pelvic floor contraction, a mini Kegel before you rise. This just signals those muscles to engage, so they're not caught completely off guard when the bladder suddenly demands control.
That leaves us with the final 2 steps. And these seem to be about respecting that 10 to 20 second danger zone we identified.
Exactly right. 6th, pause briefly before you take your very first step. You have to consciously choose to delay the urgency sprint.
Give your stability system a few seconds to catch up.
Give it those precious few seconds. If you feel dizzy, pause longer. Do not move until that feeling passes. And finally, 7th, add some daily balance practice to your routine. And maybe more importantly, plan your bathroom visits proactively, especially during travel. Don't wait for maximum urgency to hit.
Proactive action prevents reactive rushing.
That's the whole game.
So what does this all mean then? We've covered a remarkable amount of ground. We've learned that urgency, diet, prolonged sitting, and unstable balance all combine to create this perfect moment for leaks and falls, specifically in those first few seconds after standing.
Right. And this understanding really reframes the whole issue.
How so?
It reframes it from being a purely medical problem to a neurological and a movement safety problem. Incontinence isn't solely a bladder issue, it's a movement issue, it's a fall risk issue, and it is definitely a travel issue.
And understanding that mechanism, how the brain temporarily sacrifices the cerebellum's resources, that gives you control.
It gives you immense power and control over those vulnerable moments.
And that knowledge is really the key to maintaining confidence and health and independence as we move through our lives.
Absolutely. So next time you're on a long journey, or even just standing up after a long movie, take a moment. Think about the cerebellum's role in balancing your desperate need for the restroom with your body's need for stability.
What stands out to you about the brain's decision to shift its priority in that moment?
Exactly. Because using that knowledge to implement a slow, deliberate standing strategy, well, that helps ensure you move through life with steadiness, with confidence, and with independence.